You're watching Reality Check. Not long ago, the BJP government in Karnataka had banned the use of hijab in classrooms on the grounds that educational institutions must follow a secular approach, an order upheld by the Karnataka High Court. Days later, though, the BJP-run government in Gujarat said that it is planning to introduce the Bhagavad Gita into the school curriculum from the current academic year. Jeetu Vagani, Education Minister of Gujarat, said, in the first phase, values and principles contained in the Bhagavad Gita are being introduced in schools from classes 6 to 12. The Gita should be introduced in the form of story and recitation, he also said. The recitation of the Bhagavad Gita should be introduced in the prayer program. Various competitions like Shlok Gan, Shlok Purti, Vaktrutva Nibandhan, Natya Chitra, etc. based on the Bhagavad Gita should be organized in schools, he said, being quoted by ANI. A move which the Karnataka government too said it is contemplating.
Bhagavad Gita is not only for Hindus. All such things is for all. So, if expert says that Bhagavad Gita is there, it should be introduced, definitely it will be introduced. Consulting things with Chief Minister, we want to introduce oral science in next academic year, not this academic year. Whichever definitely gives good impact on the children will be introduced, whether it is Bhagavad Gita or it is Ramayana, Mahabharata.
This comes at a time when the Vice President of India countered allegations that the BJP government was saffronizing the country's education system. Venkaiah Naidu, speaking at a gathering, said, what is wrong with saffron or saffronizing education? Indians should give up their colonial mindset. Now, this is what the Constitution of India has to say about the teaching of religions in schools. Article 28 of the Constitution says, no religious instruction shall be provided in government educational institutions. No person attending any government-aided educational institution shall be required to take part in any religious instruction that may be imparted in such institutions or to attend any religious worship that may be conducted in such institutions. Well, I spoke earlier to Ashwath Narayan. He is the Minister for Higher Education in the government of Karnataka, and I began by asking him that, sir, when we just saw the Karnataka government banning the hijab, saying that you cannot have religious identity in schools and educational institutions are supposed to be secular spaces, how is it then that you are now planning or thinking about introducing the Bhagavad Gita into school curriculum?
Basically, Bhagavad Gita, time and again, the essence of life, basically to emphasize more on ethics and morals in life. People get educated, the commitment and the essence of life need to be understood by each and every person. More so, how it has to be introduced, what needs to be done, the concerned department of the technical boards of the respective schools and the respective universities will be looking into these aspects. Probably, if you ask me, yes, but in what form, how it should come in the name of the God, or what should be the moral of the lessons should be picked up, the message should be conveyed. That will be the main idea and main concept. The message and saramsh of the entire concept is very important for the lessons of life.
But when you say, if you want to do moral education, there are many ways of doing it, which doesn't necessarily have to involve religious texts, and that too of one particular religious community.
It is more than that, sir. It is more than that. Bhagavad Gita is something universal, which is applicable, and it has been taken and accepted across the world, not only in our country. And more so, Bhagavad Gita is very much essential. Instead of learning late in the life, let the children learn early in the life. By doing so, they become, we have the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbam, nor we are, don't see any religion, should not exist, or we are against any religion, nothing like that.
Okay, so in that case then, if you're saying that you're not doing any discrimination, will you be also thinking of teaching other religious books like the Bible and the Quran?
Sir, we are left it to the committees, and we are left it to the committee, what needs to be done, how it should be taken. It's been left to the respective boards and the university to adapt how it should be taken forward. It's left to the choice of the
So
respective
when you say
boards.
you've left it to the committee, what we've only seen so far and heard you say is that you're planning to introduce the Bhagavad Gita into the curriculum. Are you saying that the committee is also going to be looking at teaching the Quran and the Bible?
I am telling you, it's left to the, since you, particularly when you ask, whenever you see BJP governments, wherever you directly come to the point whether Bhagavad Gita will be introduced. If you are asking to that point, we are just responding. We have been telling it is under the consideration, it is left to the respective boards to do what they want, what is necessary, how it should be adapted, how it should be integrated, how it should be allowed to be taught in the respective schools.
Okay, sir, as you probably know, in the Constitution of India, Article 28 says that no religious instruction shall be provided in government educational institutions.
Sir, for that reason I told you, no, sir, the entire message, how it should be taught, it should be the names of the God needs to be mentioned, or the message of the entire message of the Bhagavad Gita should be taken up, or the names, how it should be done as per the law of the land and as per the Constitution of India. Whatever is permissible, whatever is been allowed only can be done. Whatever is not been allowed as per the Constitution cannot be done by anybody. So we'll be going as per the Constitution. We can't go against the Constitution.
Of course.
We'll see how best this can be taken forward,
Right.
what needs to be done, how it should be done. Everything will be thought over, keeping every possible angle in
Okay,
the mind.
but then I do come back to this because you've said throughout this interview that you're still figuring out how to teach it. Are you planning to teach it as a religious text or as a moral text? So the religious aspect of it you're not ruling out, which is, as I said, surprising given that there was a huge deal made by the BJP government of saying we're banning a hijab because we want to ensure classrooms and educational institutions should be free of religious identity.
No, sir, you should make one thing, one point. You have been always talking repeatedly about the hijab. Even the Kesri stole was not permitted. You can't talk only about the hijab. We just told very clearly that the religious, since the uniform is been prescribed. See, wherever uniform is not been prescribed, there is no question of insisting that they should not wear hijab. Wherever there is no CDC and the uniform is not been prescribed, they've been allowed to wear what they want. But wherever the uniform has been prescribed, it has been made mandatory and it is very clear either hijab
but Dr. Ashwath Narayan,
not supposed to wear.
No, but I'm saying when you say that we only talk of hijab and we don't talk of kesari stoles or saffron stoles, that's also because saffron stoles were not really worn as a normal practice in schools. It's only when this hijab controversy erupted that students showed up in saffron stoles and you said, oh, we're banning both, while it was really more to do with the hijab question. But I do want to ask you then finally that if that is indeed the case, that the logic of the hijab, then again, I mean, it is a religious marker. You're saying that you're banning that because you want schools to be secular, and you're allowing the Gita, which at the end of the day, for many people, could be seen as a religious text.
Srinivasji, I made it very clear. Wherever the rule and wherever the CDCs have prescribed the uniform, there is no question of allowing kesari stole or hijab or any other. Because the uniform, it was not decided during BJP government. It was decided much more earlier to ensure that uniform, when a uniform is been prescribed, nothing more additional need not be permitted, was the very clear decision taken from all sections of society, from all political parties. Based on that, what has been decided only is been going on, and it has been since, because here in between some controversy came up, so that's how the discussion has come up. Otherwise, it has been very clear, sir.
Right. When you say all sections of society, not every section was on board with that. That's why a bunch of them actually went to court against it, and they're still challenging the ban. But last point I want to ask you, what would you say to those who would say that this attempt to bring in the Bhagavad Gita is all part of the attempt by the BJP to saffronize education?
Definitely not. Definitely. See, if you think teaching Bhagavad Gita is saffronization, okay, we accept it. It is not. But basically, whatever is good for the people, what needs to be done, we are working in those direction, in the interest of the people. More so, you know very well how people, what kind of morals are missing in the entire society. It has become the most important part. Everybody is tending to be self-oriented and money-oriented and the priority, how we need to connect with the society, what are the responsibility, duty, ethics and morals needs to be emphasized in very big way. We are trying to do our best.
Okay, emphasizing the morals. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Ashwath Narayan. Let's go across to panel. We have with us J.S. Rajput, former director of the NCERT, Praneeth Mungali, trustee, Sanskriti Group of Schools, a big group of schools here based in Delhi. But let me start with Professor Mridula Mukherjee, historian, former professor of modern history at JNU. Professor Mukherjee, you heard there from Dr. Ashwath Narayan. He's saying that what is the problem in teaching the Bhagavad Gita? This has more to do with the moral lessons, and in that sense, it should not be seen as problematic or an attempt to saffronize education. What to him or to that argument you would say what?
Well, I think it is stretching the point. I mean, I think it's very obvious that the Gita is considered a Hindu religious text. There is no doubt that it also has, like all religious texts, like the Bible, like the Quran, like Gurbani, for example. Why don't we talk about all of them have the same message? That's what Gandhiji taught us. He said all religions are branches of the same tree. And in his model of education, for example, Nai Talim, he never had talked about religious education of any kind for students. If we see his daily practice in his prayer meetings, which he used to hold every evening, then all religions would be represented.
Right.
If there was a bhajan, there would also be a recitation from Zoroastrianism, there would be a recitation from the Quran, there would be Buddhist. Every day he would have a different mix of different religions.
Sure.
This is a multi-religious country. It's a secular country. It's a country with a constitution which has laid it down very clearly. No religious instructions in government or government-aided schools. And therefore we should respect that and not introduce texts which are clearly identified with one religion or one religious group. Because this is obviously going to lead to a lot of controversy. It's going to make it. Let me just tell you, when we were children, and I went to a Christian, a school run by nuns. The Christian girls used to go for what was called catechism, but we were never asked to come to any Bible class. We had a period, first period in the morning, which used to be called moral science.
Right.
So you want to teach ethics, you can teach ethics. And there you can say that all different religions have the same kind of ethical
broad
value.
Ethical.
You could also use religious texts as sources. Not for religious education.
Not for religious education.
There are ways of doing that.
Mr. Rajput, first I just want to ask you more on a practical kind of technical/legal aspect, that will the attempt to insert the Gita into curricula, will that fall foul of this particular article in the Constitution which says that you can't have religious instruction in government schools?
I think I need a couple of minutes, because when I say Srinivasan Jain, I recall that you must be remembering what happened in 2099 to 2004.
2000?
I was accused of saffronizing school education. 1999 to 2004.
1999 to 2004, right.
To 2004. When I was the director of education and we used to meet. You have not remembered that the whole issue of saffronization went to Supreme Court. Even perhaps the governments of Karnataka and Gujarat have not bothered to read the Supreme Court judgment. You are quoting Article 28 and you are referring BJP government decided on hijab. Now you must also, which has been confirmed by the High Court.
I did. I mentioned that in my introduction.
Then you will be unbiased.
I mentioned that in my introduction. That it was a ban introduced by the government, which was upheld by the High Court.
Okay, now listen to me for some time. The issue should be the government of Karnataka. Now, BJP government of Karnataka indicates something. Anyway, I had in the NCERT curriculum made a recommendation as an institution that now this is very significant. The recommendation was basics of all the religions must be taught to every child. every child, they should know the commonalities and learn to respect differences wherever these exist.
Right.
Our contention was that this will enhance secularism. The matter was taken by the people you know who to Supreme Court of India, and there is a judgment of 12th September 2002. The governments of these two states should read it, as also the others. Now,
Coming
this
to my
judgment
question,
is
though.
very clear about the interpretation.
Yes.
No, you have to give me time. I can't confine myself to it. I was the sufferer. My UNESCO award was stopped
sir.
by the government of India.
No, sir, go ahead. But
And they wrote, he is saffronizing education.
no, sir, go ahead. I of course, continue. But as
This judgment, the whole nation should read. And I'm giving the reference. It is Aruna Rai versus Union of India, September 12, 2002.
Sir,
Supreme Court of India, 3
you
judgments
do understand there are other panelists.
These recommendations.
So I need to move on. So I'm just asking you
No,
on the
I
point.
I will complete the judgment. I will come to Gita. I'm coming to it. There is a judgment of the Supreme Court of India that basics of religions must be taught to every child. The recommendation will enhance secularism, and this should have been done 50 years ago.
Okay.
There can
now
be no
can we
better
come to the
interpretation.
Gita,
This
sir,
is
because I have
now.
to move on. It's not fair to the others. Yes.
Every child, you have to be fair to me also. Every child in India must read Ramayana and Mahabharata to understand India. This is what Pandit Nehru said. Number 3, when I interpret the Supreme Court judgment, to understand ancient Indian culture, the growth of knowledge tradition, children must know about Bhagavad Gita. And if the government has taken this decision, it will go to Supreme Court.
No, I'm
And
asking
if
you,
the
sir, a
government
simple
refers to
question
the
because I mean,
judgment of
no, sir, it's important that you, of course, gave us all that history, but I'm just asking you that if, as you were saying, the idea was to suggest that children must learn all faiths, but if you're selectively only introducing texts belonging to one faith, doesn't then that go against the grain of what you just said?
Why are you worried? The governments are not so illiterate. They will subsequently read the Supreme Court judgment. If now that I have also mentioned it, somebody will read. And they will definitely follow. I'm confident they will follow the Supreme Court judgment.
Okay, you have.
And they will make children aware of basics of all religions.
Okay,
and if they are not doing it, then I would like them to do it. This is my.
Okay.
Gita comes a part of it. To know India, you must know about Gita and read Gita. There is no harm in it.
Okay, Praneeth Mungali.
If they have taken a decision to this.
All right, okay, Praneeth, right. Praneeth Mungali, from a practical point of view, broadly from both, from the point of view of someone who's involved with schools, how do you view this? Is there, again, because we are a multi-faith country, and so there are multiple sensitivities about how you insert religion into schools. There's no harm, as Professor Mukherjee said, in learning about religions. But if you're going to teach or focus just largely on texts of one religion, what are the sensitivities at play and also the practicalities of attempting to teach something like this?
So I think, Srinivasan, at the outset, it's important to recognize that the Gita is a text of cultural as well as literary significance for the country. And ultimately, the question we must pose ourselves is, what are we attempting to do when we are introducing texts either to improve the moral instruction or the openness of mind? I think all the policymakers or all people who are committed for the betterment of the country want the youth to have an open mind, want the youth to be able to think for themselves, and for the youth to be tolerant for other religions. I think there is no dichotomy between that and what the fundamental message of the Gita is. Vis-a-vis your other point, that it's obviously a text which has more importance and significance for a particular religion, but at least from my reading and my interpretation of the Gita, it's not necessarily propagating Hinduism. So I think that's an important factor to bear in mind. Equally importantly is the manner in which the text is brought forth. There are aspects of the text which highlight how the Gita encourages, the control of the mind, discharging moral duties, etc. That's obviously a different
No, sure. Praneeth, but the point, as Dr. Mukherjee is making, is that the religious texts of all religions broadly have their own moral messages, right? They're not just limited to religious propagation. but they also contain moral, ethical messages, life lessons, and so on. And which, as he said, was the kind of Gandhian credo that you teach from all or you draw from all. You don't pick and choose. Isn't that then problematic? Because someone could turn around and argue you can find the same moral messages or values in the texts of other religions.
To the point that Rajput sir made earlier, for understanding that there is plurality in the country which is woven into the fabric of the country from the outset, it's important for people of all faith to develop an understanding and to develop tolerance for each other. And it's welcome that the basic message, like Dr. Mukherjee said, of all the religions is the same. I think there can be no disagreement there where, no text is put at a pulpit superior to the others. But I don't see that there is any dichotomy between the Gita being taught and that message not getting diluted, provided it's done correctly.
But as I said, if you're only teaching one text and not others, then it does get put onto a pulpit.
I think, at the end of the day, it's something which, my personal view over here is that the Gita is not really propagating Hinduism. If it were, that would obviously be problematic. But as a tool of...
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Mukherjee, you wanted to come in? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, the diversity that we have within what we broadly call Hinduism itself, it is not a religion of the book. The Gita is one book that inspires many people, but there are hundreds and thousands and crores who are inspired by other books.
Right.
I come from a family of Punjabi Hindus, but in my family it was Gurbani. That was the revered book. And if you are talking of Karnataka, what about the whole Lingayat tradition? I mean, Hinduism is so diverse. As a historian, I can just say, talk to people in Tamil Nadu. Do they think that the Gita is the only and the most important text, even from Hinduism? Talk to people in Kerala. I mean, there is so much diversity in India. What about Kabir? What about the whole Bhakti tradition?
Right.
We have so many rich traditions within, as I said, what is broadly defined as Hinduism, that even within that, to privilege one text, when we are not a religion of the book, unlike Quran or the Bible, it is not one book which is our religious book.
Okay.
So there are all kinds of issues.
Right, fair enough.
With just privileging one text.
Right. Dr. Rajput, again, when you talked about what exactly these state governments are going to do, so in the Karnataka case, they still seem to be a little unclear whether they're even going ahead. They're saying they're seeking opinion. They want to kind of broadly be guided by the constitution. The Gujarat government, on the other hand, seems to be suggesting that they will be teaching the Gita both in terms of values and principles, but also introduced in the form of story and recitation, and also included in the prayer program. Again, is that distinction important in terms of one being more in consonance with kind of broad legal or constitutional parameters, and the other taking you somewhat into that more contested territory of religious instruction, which, as the Article 28 says, is technically or constitutionally not permitted?
There are so many things which are constitutionally perhaps not interpreted correctly. But say who is talking and who are opposing? Those, and I will not get into it, but I have several things which I could cite. But on the particular point, because you want me to talk only to this point, I am confident that both these state governments, when they sit to finalize, they will definitely take note of this Supreme Court judgment which has interpreted secularism. It cannot be the political secularism of a particular set of people. It has to be the secularism of Indian tradition.
But when you
the
go
way
on
India
saying
has respected diversity.
You're confident the state government will take note of
I,
it. The Gujarat government has already gone ahead and said we are introducing. They have not made any reference to any state, any Supreme Court judgment. So I'm not sure where you have this confidence that they are, referring to
I have the
Court.
confidence. I know people, and I am confident that they will not go against the constitutional values, constitutional provisions, constitutional indications, and they will not go against the unity in diversity of India. I am very confident about it.
Okay.
But I would definitely say that teaching about Gita is certainly not unconstitutional, because people who wanted their own interpretation to be thrust on the whole country are now jittery and worried about it.
Okay, again, I'm not sure what is that.
Put in for Gujarat.
A
You know, there's such a strong Jain tradition in Gujarat.
Right.
What
okay.
about that?
Okay.
And you
Right.
don't tell me that you can't get ethical
They will talk
values
about,
from Jainism.
they will not discard Kabir. Kabir will not be discarded. Jain tradition will not be discarded. No religion will be
Sir,
discarded.
you're
Nobody
speaking,
can dare to do it. They will
I'm
not
so
do it. Kabir will not
touched
be
by your
speaking.
confidence that you're making sweeping statements on behalf of state governments. But anyway, let's see how it
I'm
plays
not
out.
making sweeping. I know it. I have
Okay,
worked
you
it.
know
I have
it.
developed
Right.
curricula
We-
textbooks
no.
for the whole
Well, you
country. I know about whole thing.
All right.
I
you
also know those
you
who
know
for
it.
35 years destroyed the fabric.
Okay, destroyed the fabric. All right. We'll
I know
not
it.
start another
And
debate
I have
here
suffered. I
because
have
we have to
suffered the pain
end.
of it.
My director is telling me I have to end, so I have to end. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll have to leave it there. Good night.